Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Dungeon Boss PvP series. With the PvP Grand Tournament finally over, I'm thinking you're going to see a bunch of these residual teams left over because of the massive event buffs that they got. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to go through a couple of different variations of a very successful team to handle these guys, to ultimately, once with the streaks back up, allow you to take on these teams and get some of your trophies back and get some streaks up and running without too much fear. Now, these guys were absolutely brutal during the event. There's a lot of players that, I guess, if you didn't have the appropriate team for it, people were just skipping it. And there had been reports of people spending upwards of 30, 40, or even 50 million gold just on refreshes during the event because almost, I think we did some calculations, one of our members in Justice League calculated it out to about 90% of the teams had some variation of this assassin team. And so they were just absolutely everywhere. And so with that being said, there's going to be a lot of people who haven't switched their defenses, and therefore these should be basically easy pickings for you. And so we're going to go over a team that is going to help you defeat these guys on a regular basis and force people into changing their teams back to something that's more difficult. The reason that this particular team is so brutal is, especially if you have Shadowblade in there, you get a lot of damage fast, and so a lot of your heroes just couldn't take the damage, and on top of that, they were so dodgy that it was hard to actually hit them, and it just made things extremely difficult in order to basically get off to a good start. So anytime you're dealing with a ton of damage, especially when there's no Agnon in the mix, it makes sense that your crown prince of damage reduction is going to be Gortusk. So you should be using Gortusk to start with because he's a beast. You also want to pair him with Solaris. And then the magic potion here for, I guess, getting the damage on these guys is actually going to be using Lily for her sapping vines because they cannot dodge it. So you get that passive damage going in the background, and these guys go down pretty quick. The fourth person on the team is really up to you as far as who's going to be one of your better players or better heroes, if you will, and what you think the outcome of the fight's going to be. I've seen some people use Hansuke as a very high priority one because he's extremely durable. He has a chance to parry attacks, and he's just overall a good hero. Plus he's nature and he pairs with Lily once you get some plant growth up there. That's one option. I've also myself switched out Hansuke for somebody like Leo to get sort of a perma-res team on there. This was if I was thinking that it's possible that Solaris was going to get ganked and take too much damage too quickly, where I wasn't able to do proper revives and ultimately keep the team alive. So if you feel like that's your case, if you're taking on someone that's a higher level than you, maybe consider using Leo. But most recently, just to try and give some credit to the guy who's been around for so long now and just does not get any love at all, I've been using my buddy Hagrim. So let me find a raid here that actually has these guys, and then we'll go through and run it with Hagrim. That is not the team. This is one of the teams. So it's a high rune power team, and they are right about my level as well. I'm currently level 75. 5562 suggests that this guy has all superior runes, and this is basically the team that people are seeing. So as I mentioned, the team that I'm using is Gortusk, Lily, Solaris, and Hagrim. Because of the nature of the team that you're fighting, the order of your heroes doesn't really matter too much. This is just kind of the arbitrary order that I pick. I like to have Solaris before Hagrim in the event that Hagrim dies, which he likely will. He's not the most durable, but part of the reason I have Hagrim in there instead of Hansuke is just because of the fact that Hagrim will take more damage and he will die, and that's to ultimately fuel up Solaris's Fury meter. If Hansuke is dodging everything or parrying it, it's possible that you might end up having your Fury go towards somebody else, or in some cases not even filling up appropriately. So his defense is way higher than my attack power. That's pretty common because your attack team is not an attack-based team. It's a survival team. Your Lily should likely have defense and health on her to try and survive as long as possible. Mine is still living in the Stone Age with damage reduction. Gortusk is pretty much maxed out with his best defense and health I can get. Solaris is a mixed bag, and for the most part, Hagrim is a mixed bag as well. But I'll tell you this, if you get to the 4th turn and you have Jackhammer up with Haggrim, I don't care how sucky he is, Jackhammer is going to one-shot pretty much anybody in the game. This is 10 times so if you're at the point where you have plant growth on. So I know he's not the most popular person right now, but Jackhammer is one of the single best abilities in the entire game, and I guarantee you he will kill somebody with that maneuver. So, the rune power of this team was slightly less than mine. I'm thinking my rune power is probably higher than this person, and their level is slightly less. So this should be a pretty successful one for me. If you're looking at this particular start, I do have a tank rune on Haggrim as well. That's really just to, I don't know, it was a good rune to start with, so I just left it. The key to using this team, especially if you're fighting somebody that's better than you or higher than you, don't get all cute with Gortusk and try to do some crowd control. A lot of these guys have shields, a lot of them have high dodge. Use your 3rd ability and just keep your stacks as low as possible. He's going to take a lot of hits, and that's going to grow fast enough as it is. But your main goal is to get through these first couple of turns with as much mitigated damage as possible. Once these sapping vines get out there, it's pretty much lights out for them unless something really awful happens to your Solaris. So for the most part, as long as you're gaining Fury, you're going to be sitting pretty good. Your primary target should normally be Emily. You want to get her out of there as fast as possible. Here's another reason why I like to have Haggrim. His Buzzsaw does nerve damage. When you get down to the nitty-gritty and you're dealing with Sifu, who just doesn't seem to die, nerve damage is going to go a long way to help that. In this case here, I'm not really interested in Buzzsaw in terms of what it's going to kill here. Emily's going to die eventually, and she's likely going to revive somebody else before she dies, so I'm just whipping stuff out there at this point. My main goal is to ultimately survive long enough to get Jackhammer, because, like I said, Jackhammer is total beast mode when it comes to killing things. So Emily is almost always going to outlast somebody. Usually Black Diamond dies pretty quick because she's pretty squishy. So in this case here, it just happened to be Sifu that bit it first. Nothing overly rare there. So this is what I was talking about in terms of when things really bad happen. Notice Solaris got ganked pretty hard, and fortunately, this is exactly what I was hoping would not happen. This is basically why you lose your fights. So this is going to be a loss for me because of, likely because of the fact that my Lily maybe wasn't as strong as she could be. But you are going to occasionally run into some instances like that, and there's unfortunately nothing you can really do about it. Had it been where Sifu didn't die, usually Sifu is a lot tougher than that. I'm not going to lie, he's usually a lot tougher than that, and he's not one to die easily. And the fact that Emily was able to revive him really threw a wrench in my system. Normally that's not going to be the case. So we'll do this one again just for the sake of doing it. This one here is a little bit higher level than me, and it's got a little bit better rune power. But I'm pretty confident in the team for the most part. But if you don't like Haggrim, like I said, you can switch to Hansuke, and he's pretty durable with his, just even without parrying, he's pretty tough. So that's part of the reason why I said you want to target Emily first. When Emily revives somebody, that double tap attacks that they get it can be brutal. No matter who she revives, it's just not something you want to deal with too often if you can avoid it. And so it happened to be Sifu with his stupid precise rampage, which unfortunately I would have gotten to revive my guys, but the double attack that they got was just unfortunately no good. So throw some damage on Emily. Sapping Vines will take her almost down to nothing. And then you can see already this one's already looking extremely good. We're in a really good position at this point. And we may get to a point where we don't even have... Fury's not up yet, so as long as Solaris doesn't meet some untimely end, we should actually be sitting pretty good. Now, neither of these two are going to kill. Yeah, so you can see how this worked way better than the last time around. That other person had worse runes, and they were lower level, and they gave it to me pretty good. And this person was a higher level, and we pretty much stomped them pretty hard. So the team itself is extremely viable, and like I said, if you want to swap out for somebody else for that 4th spot, feel free to do so. There's a lot of flexibility with this team. As long as you keep those core 3 as the main ones. We have another 5,600. This one's different because of Agnon. I'll be honest, I don't see a lot of Agnon in here. Overly not too frightened of him, to be honest. I mean, he's obviously pretty brutal, but usually Emily was a more problematic one because she does the res with the haste on there. And really all that's going to differ with this one here is Agnon's going to kill Gortusk. That's really all that's going to happen. Sure, Terror Storm and his other, whatever it's called, Assault or whatever, is going to be brutal, but ultimately I'm not terribly concerned with it. Damage reduction on everybody else should protect us. Gortusk is going to go down. No big deal. That should charge up our Fury meter a little bit. But everything else is pretty much the same at this point here. So in this case here, you obviously do need to target Agnon because he is pretty potent. There's nothing we can do about it right now because of the taunt up. So just take it one step at a time and go for it. Alright, Fury meter is going to be up, so as long as Agnon doesn't kill Solaris, we're right back in business. Here we go. And the Sapping Vines is going to do everything we need it to. Solaris is going to come back at a nice opportune moment. And we got damage reduction out there again, which is good. And he kills Hagrim. Not a big deal. Hagrim can stay dead for all we care. All we need is a couple more turns, and this one's done. It would have been nice, to be honest, to have Hagrim up so that he could keep gaining energy, because the Jackhammer on Agnon would kill him. But I don't think we're at a point where we need that. We should last long enough where we don't die with Solaris. Plant growth on Hagrim would have been absolutely awesome too, but unfortunately we have limitations. That's about the worst process that could have happened. In this case here, it's a matter of, do we think Lily can soak it? Yeah, and that's really all that we needed there. So we're all set. We'll get a res on Hagrim, and Hagrim will take Sifu to Pound Town, and then it'll be pretty much over. He won't have Jackhammer up yet because he died kind of untimely, but it won't matter. He'll get it the next turn. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of confidence in Hagrim as a whole, and ultimately the core 3/4 of this team here. So like I said, this here would be brutal if I had plant stacks on it, but Jackhammer in general is extremely potent. And so it's a tough Sifu though, not gonna lie, but in general the Jackhammer is quite something. No real reason to use the Dwarven Fury other than for the sake of having it, but because I knew this one was going to be a win anyways at this point. There's no way Sifu alone can take on the entire team. See, that one did 5,000 damage. I don't know why the first ones didn't. It couldn't have just been the Dwarven Fury, but that's kind of that. So we'll do one more raid just so you can see one more variation of this. If you wanted to use Hansuke, you can. I'll swap him in there just so you can see it. I'm thinking more people have better Hagrim than Hansuke, to be honest, because Hagrim's been in tokens forever. I want to try and get to one of those. Yeah, let's go back to the basic. This is a 5,900 rune power. That's pretty up there. Anything getting close to 6,000 is pretty brutal. The difference between these two teams, in my opinion, is Hansuke is not a huge damage dealer for a lot of people. A lot of people are putting him on health, and they're putting him on sometimes evasion and some defense and damage reduction. I know he used to be a tank, so a lot of people just kind of left him that way, but he's technically a warrior now, so he can take damage if you're not careful. But like I said, I'm really riding the Hagrim train just because I don't know, they both do the same basic premise where they can't be dodged, but I like Hagrim with plant stacks more than I do Hansuke, but I like Hansuke for the first couple of rounds because he's less likely to die than Hagrim, especially if you run into an issue where Solaris is going down early. A couple of well-placed parries on Hansuke can really save your entire team and let that meter grow. So we got 2 deaths on here. Unfortunately, Well, fortunately for us, neither of them is Sifu, so we should be pretty good there. We're going to keep throwing damage on Emily, but she's going to revive somebody. Fortunately, it was Black Diamond. That's good for us, but Solaris is going to come back. Ideally, what would have been great is if Sifu kills Gortusk right before Solaris revives. But I wasn't expecting Hansuke to die. Well, unfortunately, that would have been... Oh, and that was my buddy Aldrich, too, so he's going to love the fact that he beat me there. But no, that probably should have been a win for the most part, but, sometimes you get ones like that. So not everything is going to be totally infallible. I mean, it would have been the same with Hagrim. He wouldn't have been able to dodge that attack. So, but I would have expected a little bit better out of the parry, but it is what it is. So, give yourself a try with this team or a variation of this team and see how you like it. And hopefully it'll save you some refreshes as you get into the next season and maybe keep some of your streaks alive as you see these assassin teams more often in PvP. Any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them below. Otherwise, we will see you again next time. And thanks for watching. Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. If you like this video, please show your continued support by hitting that like button. And be sure to check out both my YouTube channels for new content all the time. And always remember, peace is a lie. There's only passion. We'll see you next time.